Hi folks, it's Thinking Slow. So we have a pretty interesting episode, I think, about Ukraine. And before we get into that, I'd just like to ask again that thank you for those who have contributed and would very much like your support on Patreon. We really need to get this show sort of more or less viable by the end of July. And if we're not able to do that, then we're going to pull the plug on this. So hopefully those of you who have been with us for a long time have appreciated some of the work we've done. It does take a lot of time and effort, and we have very senior and sensible people as coming on for interviews. So if you could support that work, it'd be much appreciated. So if it's something you're going to delay and do later, why don't you put this on pause now and spend the 4 or 5 minutes to go onto Patreon or Tipeee, and that would really help us out. So anyway, let's get on with the show today about Ukraine. And also, I think you may have seen the reason that we've had a break is because of the censors at YouTube who deleted our video about the World Health Organization, which had 1,000 views, and they suddenly decided they didn't like it. So that's why we've been off for a little while. Anyway, let's go to Ukraine now. So people who have been following the show will have known that we've warned about some of these individuals who are pushing this pro-war narrative very hard. We know from first-hand experience that Anders Osland is basically deranged. He is a vehement hater of Russia, and he wrote recently this tweet: "My humble advice to NATO would be, point number 3, bomb relevant Russian cities preventatively to make sure that Putin does not use chemical arms or nukes. Wake up, we are at this stage." And as well as being a hothead, he is at the Atlantic Council. And as we pointed out in one of the videos, it's always important to follow the money. You know, whose agenda are these guys pushing? And in the case of the Atlantic Council, it's funded by the US Department of State, very many military industrial companies, and for this one it's funded also by the oligarch Viktor Pinchuk's foundation, as well as by Mr. Khodorkovsky's Future of Russia Foundation. So this is a pretty bad, in my view, cast of characters who fund this think tank, and Osland is their mouthpiece, pushing vehemently pro-war rhetoric. So the reason we wanted to do today's show, though, is to talk about the people's reaction to all of this propaganda. And we'll just listen briefly to this introduction from the European Council for Foreign Relations.
Vladimir Putin launched his all-out aggression on February 24th with the explicit aim of getting rid of Ukraine and restoring his version of Greater Russia. It wasn't about NATO or Donbass or whatever. It was about getting rid of a Ukraine that, in his opinion, should never have been allowed to exist. Europe hasn't seen anything like this since Adolf Hitler in September 1939 launched his attack in order to get rid of Poland and create the condition of his greater German Reich. It was imperative then to defeat Hitler. It is imperative now to defeat Putin. Nothing less.
So this is about the best you get, you know, a lazy Hitler trope. Putin is Hitler, therefore we must go into all-out war. Anyone that knows anything about Putin and anything about Hitler will know this is complete nonsense. It's just pushed by a sort of NGO-funded progressive politician, and it's part of this elite narrative. So let's see what the people have to think about this. Now, surprisingly, the European Council for Foreign Relations actually released this survey itself, and usually when you see survey and you see the name YouGov, you sort of tend to groan because very little of what they ever produce is accurate, and I think in most cases it's designed to form opinions and manipulate people rather than report on what people actually think, which is doubly surprising then to get these results. I found these results quite jaw-dropping, that basically they classify the respondents into different camps based on their answers to questions. And one of them is the peace camp, and the other one is the so-called justice camp, which is essentially, you know, punishment for Russia. I think it's a reasonable way to summarize that. But what's absolutely remarkable for me is that in all of these countries, really down to Poland, Poland is the only one where the number of people that want peace is not more than the number of people that want justice. And the number of people that want peace is not just more, but it's multiples of the number of people that want justice. So 3, 4 to 1. That ratio goes down over time. But even in the UK, that's been subject, the people of the UK have been subject to 24 hours psyops for months now. Even there, the number of people that want peace is greater. And peace includes concessions by Ukraine. So the elite knows that it has a problem, that it doesn't have any popular mandate for pursuing their sort of punishment campaign. You know, Putin must be punished, Putin must be replaced. That's their own personal agendas, not supported by the population. Another part of that survey, which was quite interesting, I found it to be interesting, is the sort of role reversal that we're seeing everywhere between the left and the right. So everywhere you go, the progressives tell you that AfD in Germany is crazy, right-wing, so on and so forth. But well, amazingly, I guess, the number of people that want peace in this sort of so-called aggressive political party is absolutely enormous compared to more the left-leaning parties. And this is a trend that I think we've seen. Even if we don't have the numbers, we can see these far-left people, particularly in the UK, this lunatic called Paul Mason, pushing for war endlessly. So the sort of right of centre is much more inclined to have peace than these so-called progressive parties, and that's something we're seeing at least anecdotally around Europe. This is a strange situation, but I'm happy to be in this grouping and not with these people at all. Another big part of the survey, which won't please the military-industrial complex that's funding these lunatics like Anders Osland, is that in most countries there's less people, or there's more people that don't want to spend more on defense than do want to spend on defense. So the red are the ones that don't want to spend, and the blue are the ones that do want to spend. And this is almost like a flipped version of what we saw on the peace versus justice picture. So it's the same order, basically. So in Italy, where you have maximum a number of people wanting peace compared to justice, you also have the maximum number of people not wanting to spend more on defense than do want to spend more money on defense. And in aggregate, still across this survey of Europe plus the UK, still more people do not want to spend more on defense than do want to spend more on defense. So that also will frustrate the military-industrial complex, whose talking heads are constantly pushing the war narrative. So let's have I think the survey in itself was quite mind-blowing, but let's just have another look at another couple of bits of information that are also interesting on Ukraine. This is one of the most vociferous and relentless warmongers in the UK, a person called Julia Hartley-Brewer on Talk TV. I think we've covered her in previous episodes, so viewers of this channel will know all about the people she's interviewing, but this is actually from today, where she spoke to this General Ben Hodges, Lieutenant General Ben Hodges, and he was talking about the need to spend more money, etc., etc. Now, what Julia Hartley-Brewer will never do, ever, is to mention where these people are from, who they're working for, what they're doing. It's just airbrushed out of the introduction. Now, on this channel, and people will know that this Lieutenant General Ben Hodges is at SEPA, and SEPA, as we've covered in those other videos, I can scroll back to that follow the money chart, but SEPA is funded by large chunks of the military-industrial complex. These companies in particular, Lockheed Martin, BAE Systems, General Dynamics Land Systems, and the US Department of State, and actually part of US Central Command also funds SEPA. So SEPA, again, is by far not a neutral organization in all of this. When someone comes on there from SEPA saying we need to spend more money, at the same time as they're funded by a bunch of military contractors making billions from the sale of arms. That raises alarm bells for me, and as I said, people like Julia Hartley-Brewer will never ever identify the obvious conflicts of interest in these arrangements, but there they are, and they're here for people who are following this video. Another good piece of warmongering in the UK this week has been from a so-called opposition party. The head of the party of Reform UK is tweeting out that Russian tennis players should be banned, and that's all well and good. And I'm very pleased to see he got big time ratioed on this, 250 odd likes versus 850 odd negative comments. And I just picked out 2 of them, and I think they're quite good, so it's worth reading them. This was one reply from Daryl McLennan. How can you possibly challenge government when you espouse the exact same views as them? I am politically homeless and been considering your party, but now I am confused. We should not be involved with this war. NATO could have stopped this in December. And look at that, 215 likes on that. So, and also Germanicus here, another good response. This is so daft and hypocritical. US and UK players should have been banned in 2003 then. Oh, but that was a war the globalists agreed with, so it's okay. This world is evil. Its evil and hypocrisy really make me want to vomit. Well, you know, fine sentiments, basically. I think I would agree with both of those. But again, it's good that the elite are going out making these sort of pro-war noises, and every time they do, or pretty well every time they do, they get ratioed. You know, the people do not support this mad elite agenda. So let's just get the final word really from Russia. We've done subtitles for this short section about the issue of wheat, which is becoming front and center. I'm going to play the video here now with the subtitles. This is President Putin's statements on wheat exports, where he claims, I think very credibly, that actually the West is frustrating wheat exports from Russia and causing global problems with wheat shortages. This is not a Russian plan or campaign, it's something orchestrated by the West.
Но если у них нет хлеба, пусть едят пирожные. Именно с таким цинизмом сейчас некоторые страны Запада, дестабилизируя глобальное производство сельхозпродукции, и подходят к вопросам подобного рода, вводя ограничения, например, на поставки российских и белорусских удобрений, затрудняя экспорт на мировые рынки российского зерна. Кстати говоря, урожай у нас намечается хорошим, Бог даст, все будет нормально, и мы от 37 миллионов тонн, которые в этом году на мировой рынок поставляем, скорее всего, сможем поставить на мировые рынки 50 миллионов зерновых. Тем не менее, усложняется страхование транспорта, перевозящего зерно, сухогрузов, проведение банковских оплат по торговым контрактам и так далее. При этом искусственно раздувается истерика по поводу прекращения транспортировки, скажем, украинского зерна через черноморские порты. Кстати говоря, и по американским, и по нашим оценкам, это примерно 5-6 миллионов тонн пшеницы и плюс 7 миллионов тонн кукурузы. Тоже кое-что, но глобально, конечно, это никаких проблем на мировом рынке зерна не решает. Но дело-то даже не в этом. Я уже публично много раз заявлял, и хочу еще раз подчеркнуть, что Россия не препятствует вывозу украинского зерна с территории этой страны и готова обеспечить свободный проход судов с зерном в международные воды, если, конечно, украинские военные разминируют порты отгрузки и близлежащую акваторию. Более того, у нас есть соответствующее понимание.
And then just finally, this is something we picked up from the Ukrainian response to proposals from Henry Kissinger about a peace deal with Ukraine involving ceding some of the territory in eastern Ukraine, which is predominantly ethnic Russian. This was the response from a guy called Mr. Arestovich, who, again, followers of this channel will know we did a special episode about him. on this interview. This is quite literally his response to those proposals. Go F yourselves. And then this gesture, which is shown in the picture, and it goes on for quite an expletive-laden rant. Now, remembering this is a presidential advisor. A presidential advisor is on video making these gestures and telling people to go F themselves. This is the standard of quality of Zelensky's circle in Ukraine. And that's really, I think that's all we wanted to cover for today. So again, a completely different angle. You won't see this anywhere on the mainstream media. In fact, you won't probably see even in the alternative media. So if you want to keep us alive and going, please press the pause button or go straight to the Patreon button and subscribe and be a supporter of the channel, and click the links below. And thank you very much for watching. Bye.